Who is your building block at center?
Yeah, I think the only way I wasn't going to play this guy at center tonight was if he suddenly appeared with point guard eligibility, and he has not. So going back to Pascal Siakam at $8,900, look, just nothing's changed, and I don't think I expect anything to change in this particular game. He's $8,900, which is the exact price point he was on yesterday's slate. We don't know the status of Scotty Barnes and Fred VanVleet as of yet, but I would have to think if they weren't healthy enough to play in yesterday's game, it's probably more unlikely than not that they're healthy enough to play in tonight's game. So if both of those guys are out once again, this is just too low a price point for someone who is the leading scorer, number one offensive option, and de facto point guard for his team. I mean, Siakam played 39.4 minutes last night against the Hornets, scored 24 points, grabbed 9 rebounds, had 12 assists, 17 potential assists. He's just doing everything for this team right now, and he should be well above the 9K mark considering what his role is. And Chicago, not that great a defensive team, suddenly, when you take away their 2 best perimeter defenders. I mean, the major concerns we had about a Nikola Vucevic, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan threesome, I mean, those defensive concerns are kind of important when Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso are no longer there filling in the gaps. So I just think this is a pretty good matchup for Pascal Siakam as well.
Well, and Pascal Siakam projected for right around 40 points tonight. Thing is, I mean, you could save $1,200 and go to another guy who's projected for right around 40, and Yusuf Nurkic, Friar. So you want to, I don't know, pay down a little bit at center? Do you want to go for one of the studs? What's the approach?
I think we're already paying down with Pascal Siakam because, I mean, look at what Jokic has been doing. Of course, he's been crazy right now and going up against the Nets. I still like him in this spot tonight. Who doesn't like Jokic? But Pascal Siakam is my favorite. I'm with Garion on this one. Just to kind of add on to what he was talking about, because there's a lot of stuff he covered that I wanted to talk about. When in terms of his output, he's got a minimum of 45 DK fantasy points in 9 of the 11 games this month, and then that's 5 times salary for what he's priced at tonight. He's gone over 60 DK fantasy points in 5 of those games. And looking at the Bulls, one of the worst teams against opposing centers in terms of fantasy production this season. They're not moving at the fastest rate, but they're still ranked 12th in pace, so it's a pace-up spot for the Raptors that are 26th in that category. And then the Bulls are, Gary was talking about their defensive rating and everything. They're middle of the pack. Even when you look at the entire season, they're middle of the pack defensive rating. So not exactly a spot where I'm going to be worried about Siakam. If anything, I feel really great about him tonight.
Are we getting to the point here, Whalen, where no matter what Joker is priced at and it's 12-4 tonight, you just have to play the guy?
I think we are. I mean, you obviously don't have to play him, but there's a pretty good chance you're going to get burned when you look at his game log, and it's like 65, 63, 74, 81 DraftKings points.
93.
In some of these games this season. I mean, it's insane. I checked the score last night. He was had a massive double-double at halftime against Detroit and had 19 rebounds, I think, going into the fourth quarter. I mean, it's getting crazy, some of the numbers that we're seeing from Jokic. And I think Garion called it perfectly on the show yesterday when he said, this team, when he's off the floor and even sometimes when he's on the floor, they're just not good enough to pull away from a team like Detroit. So from a fantasy perspective, it's perfect because he can put up 30, 20, and 7, and all of a sudden it's a 6-point game with 8 minutes left and he's going to play the rest of the way. So, it's kind of set up perfectly for DFS players. So, of course, I have no problem using Nikola Jokic tonight. I do like Bam Adebayo as well at 7,700. I think he's looked pretty good in his 4 games back since returning from that thumb injury. You mentioned Nurkic at 7,700. I was choosing between Nurkic and Cat in some of those late contests last night, and Nurkic turned out to be the right choice. He outplayed Karl-Anthony Towns in that game, even though Minnesota ended up getting the win. And if you want to price down a little bit at center, it could be a Hassan Whiteside night with no Rudy Gobert. Again, for Utah, Whiteside's at 6,600. And then no DeAndre Ayton and no JaVale McGee for Phoenix, which, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it opens up the possibility of a Bismack Biyombo play at 5,500.